that brings us back to the question, should women then be compensated for this, and how do you decide how much? How do you measure women's unpaid work? Mitali Nikore, aren't economists divided on this too? Because I think a few years ago in some assembly elections in the states, political parties promised that women would get paid for this labor. At that point of time, there were some economists who said that this would further entrench the gender gap. Why is that? Could you explain that?
Thanks, Sarah, for including me in the debate, and also for using a lot of our research in all of the playouts that are playing. All the data is from our Nikore Associates research, so very proud to put that out there with Observer Research Foundation. I think just a couple of myth busters before I answer your question directly, Sarah. The first is, as Mr. Kakkar said right at the beginning, that, it's, actually changing in urban areas, but not in rural areas. That's actually not true. When we look at our data, it's actually the gap in urban areas is 9.6 times. That is, urban women are doing 9.6 times more unpaid work than urban men, whereas in rural areas, the difference is 8.4. So rural areas, men are pitching in a lot more. And secondly, when women are more educated, they are graduates, they are working, even then they are putting in that double shift. But if they are not married, they're actually doing far less unpaid work. So when I go and present this paper at many colleges, I often joke with the students, just be careful about getting married, because when you get married, you're doing 5.4 times more unpaid care work than an unmarried woman.
So fascinating. Two important things. You're saying educational and education does not appear to even out the distribution of care work, right? No. So if I'm more educated, so that means, is that because I have married someone who's also equally educated and so he feels he's not going to do it? But what about if I'm educated, I probably am earning an income and I am outsourcing my burden on some other poor woman who has to now do the shift?
Absolutely, but you're still managing her. Yeah. But you're still managing her, and the management of the domestic work is also domestic work, and therefore the time goes into doing unpaid work in many, many ways. In fact, the three biggest activities on which you see women spending time when doing unpaid care work is childcare, elderly care, and cooking. These are the three biggest activities. And a lot of this cannot be outsourced. You can't always outsource childcare or elderly care. So in such a situation, when you talk about paying a woman for unpaid care work, for child care, for elderly care, for cooking, sometimes these are, firstly, there's an emotional argument, right? These are things you do for your family. So you may not want to be paid for that. And the second is a practical argument where you say, how are you going to value this? At what level are you going to value this? How are you going to monitor the hours? Who is going to make the payments? So that's the practical aspect. But the third aspect is really about entrenching this as a woman's job. Do you want these tasks to always be known as women's work and therefore pay only women for them? I mean, if you are paying as the state, then you should pay any person of any gender who performs these tasks.
Okay.
In order to then not entrench them.